All right, Wave Weather Now and Wave Now joining forces this evening. Hey, everybody, I'm Wave Storm Tracking Team Meteorologist Ryan Hoke.
Thanks, folks, for joining us. I'm Wave Anchor José Zozaya. We love doing this. We'll call it the Power Hour. Someone mentioned that in one of the earlier streams this week. Merging our combined knowledge and also, A, love of hanging out, B, letting you folks know what we're going to discuss. Ryan, so much more to talk about. I wish we would maybe switch up the cold, but that's not going to happen, at least not for the foreseeable future.
No, the cold's going to stick around here for quite some time, Jose, and that's just because we've got an Arctic air mass that's really not going anywhere, unfortunately. And that means that snow on the ground, it's not going anywhere either.
Talk to me real quick about whether that's the kind of snow where, if you have no choice, I understand just digging it and trying to shovel that out. It is not an easy feat. Maybe, folks out there, I know you would rely on nephews, nieces, the kids. Maybe you hire a service to come shovel all that snow. I'll just make the reference, Ryan, that I was trying to clear some more to park my car coming in home last night. I was like, the snow, I can't move this by myself. I don't have the right tools, and it's just at a consistency where I'm just like, it's a lost cause.
The secret to this, and everybody should know this, is you have to do this early and often because the longer you wait on clearing your snow, the more it compacts over time. So it's denser, and you've got those freeze-thaw cycles that happen, thawing because you've got like sunlight hitting it
directly at
even if it's well below freezing, you still are melting a little bit of that, and you're kind of smashing it over time into ice here. So that's why you've got to clear it kind of as it's happening. You may have to shovel your driveway 2-3 times before the storm is over with, but you'll be kind of paying it forward because you won't have to deal with the more dense and heavier version of that days later.
And folks reminding us how cold it is for Cary, for example, which, by the way, we love you all jumping in, sharing your feedback and your observations when we're talking those negative degrees, Ryan. And that's before the wind chill, which I already know, just the wind chill alone, as just processing that mentally, like, we're calling it, the North Pole is coming and claiming this territory for the week, and starting February is what I've been texting family, telling them, like, this is our mini version of the North Pole right here.
This is not super typical for us, but we do see a winter like this every 5-10 years. So it's definitely not every year. This is more like an Indianapolis, Chicago, maybe like Madison, Wisconsin sort of winter here.
Lake effect snow, if you all were raised around there. And I've heard those stories and saying that's something when you leave for warmer climes, you definitely don't miss just the drift and how that can just pierce through your skin at that point.
Yeah, that's no fun, right? Thanks to all the folks who are on here this evening. We see your comments here in the feed. We've got folks asking how's the weather, et cetera, from YouTube, from Facebook.
Tanya already asking about, she's probably thinking some plans in the Smoky Mountains. Is what she's thinking. I wonder what the snow cover might be for you like out there.
Yeah, snow cover in the Smokies is probably pretty thick right now. And there's another storm hitting the Carolinas, by the way. I believe that's over the weekend. That may spread some additional snow to the Smokies. Please use caution if you're heading to East Tennessee there.
Be safe out there. Well, we appreciate you guys. Keep those questions, observations coming. What we're going to do first is Ryan, the storm tracking team, very cautiously, very methodically combing through all this, and just at the very least, short term, Ryan, we're just trying to make it through this week and bundling up the best we can, and just understanding what it's like while we have the time outside, what we got to contend with.
Yeah. So here's the deal, guys. Let's take the graphics full and show you what we've got cooking this evening. Temperatures right now are in the 20s, and that's a real upgrade compared to this time yesterday. I mean, we were watching like Jasper, Indiana, trying to go below zero at about 8 o'clock yesterday, about 24 hours ago. So this is 17 degrees warmer there. Here in Louisville, we're at least 15 degrees warmer. Not too shabby, still well below freezing here. And you'll note, of course, that the cold is going to stick around, so much so that we have several more alert days ahead here. Yikes, right? So here's the deal. Wednesday, Friday, Saturday mornings, all of those are wave weather alert days. Cold, freezing fog, and of course a little bit of light snow, all kind of on the docket for those. Hypothermia is real, all right? If you're not dressed appropriately for this and you're out for more than 10, 20 minutes, this could be a problem, all right? I know we've had some really cold mornings already. We're going to continue to have these. It gets easy to become complacent in a situation like this. You start getting used to the cold, and that's not often a great thing, okay? And then, of course, new slick spots with this freezing fog also possible tomorrow morning. Let's talk about that freezing fog for a moment, shall we? Low visibility is something we deal with fog often. We know how that works. Easy, right? Freezing fog is simply when fog happens at temperatures below freezing. Ta-da! Easy. But the deal is that the micro water droplets within the cloud of fog that's ahead of you as you're driving on the road, those little micro droplets of water, they adhere to the road surface and they freeze, creating black ice. That's why new slick spots are possible on Wednesday morning, tomorrow morning. This is Fogcast. It shows us the visibility in miles, and it shows that we already start to see some fog developing near North Vernon, near Paoli, Orange County, Jennings County by about 3 o'clock in the morning. This becomes more widespread by 8 a.m., including parts of Louisville, perhaps. Now, notice where the fog is and where it isn't. It is over areas with a thick snowpack. We're talking 6-inch plus. It is not over parts of central and southern Kentucky where they don't have as thick of a snowpack. The snowpack is influencing the temperature such that fog is more likely. So southern Indiana, areas along and north of I-64, you stand the best chance of seeing that freezing fog potential early tomorrow morning. Could a freezing fog advisory be issued? It's possible. We've, of course, seen the National Weather Service come out this evening and say that they're not issuing one yet. They have to have a certain visibility for a certain amount of time. That's 2 or more hours before they can get to that. So it's possible they could do that more short fuse tomorrow morning if this does become a big problem. We'll watch it. Otherwise, by midday, we're in pretty good shape there. Cold weather advisory has been issued for areas along and north of I-64. This is a step down from the extreme cold warning that we had this morning. Why is that? Wind chills won't be as low. We had a wind chill potential this morning down to 20 degrees below zero. I don't think anybody saw that, thankfully. We did see some 10 belows, though, that's for certain. But tomorrow morning, the wind chill will be about 0 to 10 below instead of 10 to 20. So that's more of a cold weather advisory situation. This is the old wind chill advisory you may remember, merged with another advisory into something new that the National Weather Service has started here recently with these cold weather alerts instead of wind chill alerts. Hopefully that makes it a little easier for folks to understand. This is what you'll wake up to tomorrow morning. 7 here in Louisville. Some folks may go below 0 outside the city. We weren't as successful in doing that this morning as we thought, just because the southwest wind kicked up a little earlier than expected, and that kept the temperature from dropping for very long. So, this morning wasn't as bad as it could have been. Tomorrow morning will still be very cold, though, regardless of today's performance here. And, of course, you see Fogcast there once again. Got my graphics out of order. Oh, no, excuse me. This is Fogcast for Thursday morning. Excuse me. There's 2 of these. I forgot about that. Thursday morning, guess what? More fog potential. And, yes, this would be freezing fog again with temperatures in the teens as that happens. So 2 mornings to watch for that, Wednesday morning and Thursday morning. I know this is like everything but the kitchen sink, guys. I promise this will get better soon in March. But you'll notice that we've got another chance for some light snow as we head throughout Friday morning. Now, this particular area of light snow would probably be over central and southern Kentucky. For you weather nerds out there, this is the European model here. This is the latest run of that, and it's showing that light snow activity just south of the city here by 9 a.m. on Friday. By noontime, it's down toward areas south of the western Kentucky and bluegrass parkways in southern Kentucky. How much snow would we see out of this? Here in Louisville, maybe a dusting. If it comes up this far north, we might get squat from that. You may not notice because there will still be snow on the ground from this past weekend, so this may be a non-event. But you'll notice that southern Kentucky could pick up a few tenths of an inch of coating, etc. Then we get into Saturday with low temperatures, potentially at the coldest point that we'll have for this whole saga here. 1 degree below 0 here in Louisville is our forecast low for Saturday. Why so cold a week after the snow? Well, it's a new Arctic air mass plunging in with the snow cover already in place. So that's why we get down below 0 with that. And wind chill temperatures could get down to 10 degrees below 0. We're in cold weather advisory territory once again. Maybe extreme cold warning criteria if the wind chill keeps going down for Saturday morning. One more thing here before we take a little bit of a break here. Frost quakes. You may have heard about these on social media. No, this is not the exploding trees thing that you heard about. That's fake news. Frost quakes are real, all right? And what is going on is that we've gotten these reports from folks all across central and southern Kentucky and a few closer to Louisville and southern Indiana too, about these loud bangs and shaking going on. And folks going, wow, did I have a pipe explode? Is there a dump truck down the street? What the heck's going on here? It's not that. It's actually what's happening underneath your feet. A frost quake is essentially a minor earthquake that happens because of how cold the temperature is. So you've got this layer of water underneath the ground here, groundwater. We've heard of that. That's how wells exist, right? So there's water underground. Ta-da. It gets cold, so cold that the ground temperature falls below freezing, and that groundwater freezes into ice. As that groundwater freezes, it expands, and that expansion puts pressure on the soil and the bedrock, and it can cause sudden cracks to happen in both the soil and bedrock that can shake things around and literally make it feel like or sound like there's an explosion or an earthquake. Frost quakes, or cryoseism, if you will, if you're looking for the scientific term there, that is what so many folks have likely experienced. Now, if you do hear that loud bang, still check your basement or your crawl space, make sure there's nothing leaking, could be a burst pipe. But oftentimes, as we've seen lately here, Jose, this has been a frost quake, and it's gotten a lot of attention on social media because this seems new to folks, but these have been happening since the dawn of recorded time, since the beginning of science here. It's just we're now hearing more about them because communication and science have progressed to a point where we're talking about them now.
It's the beauty of merging and learning, all this stuff. We can have the discussion and, continue perhaps hearing from all the known science and research that, of course, Ryan and the graphics make this so much more visually appealing for us. For the visual learners out there, I think this is something that we can all certainly appreciate. We're going to switch real quick. As Ryan mentioned, an opportunity for us to kind of reset and keep the conversation going because, we understand what this cold impact is going to be. Let's scan through our viewer questions.
Yeah.
Why don't we go through one that I think I can appreciate Angela is sort of saying it in all caps. You're making the point that what you're wanting is for this to be over. But maybe the question I would frame up to you, Ryan, is will it ever warm up? Is just perhaps there's probably a bunch of factors you have to look at for that. Yes, we're not going to stay in this cold forever, but a bunch of different circumstances have to combine to get us out of this.
And it also depends on your definition of warm.
I'm going to go with let's get above freezing. And then maybe, Angela, you can let us know. I think of warm as can we get into the 60s? But again, this time of year, you're going to deal with, vacillating winter temperatures. We're not getting to 60. We can wish for that come springtime, but that's only going to come over the course of a season.
So above freezing would be about a week from today. We've got a chance. That would be like Tuesday of next week into Wednesday. May warm into the 30s. Woo! And then we would likely plunge back down again, perhaps at some point by mid-February.
Yes.
As far as when 60s happen, late February, March, maybe spring. It's just one of those situations where you've got the polar vortex. You've heard of that before. It's been all over social media in the last 10, 15 years. Is splitting, right? So when that thing splits, it sends a ton of cold air down to the mid-latitudes where we live here in North America. And that may very well happen again in February, just kind of reinforcing these cold shots of air. And you also have high pressure over Greenland that's helping channel that traveling Arctic air down into our region. It can't go east because Greenland has a high pressure cell that says stop. The U.S. does not, so it comes down to the path of least resistance.
That's literally what I was going to say.
And that's us, right? So that's the problem. We're in a pattern that we can't get out of. So March may be your best answer for when it truly warms up. But I think at some point in February, we'll at least see some moderation. It won't be like this forever, I promise. As much as we joke, it will get better.
And the tectonic plates just don't move that fast. Sorry, guys. We can't move out of the way.
No.
Planet Earth and geology doesn't work that way.
I got like 30 million years here before the weather changes due to tectonic shift, all right?
So, Carrie, we had seen you chiming in before, so thank you, Carrie, on YouTube. Perhaps a conversation, I don't know where you might run into these threads or other Discord, rooms for this, but about coldest temperatures on the planet to our south somewhere this week. I'm not sure if the numbers were looking at a part where the Arctic air might hit a certain latitude below us.
So I
Well,
think
given that I know it's winter for us in the northern hemisphere anyway, so it's you
on the
can't like
planet.
yeah.
I'm not quite sure about that one. I don't have a good answer for that. Unfortunately, I'd have to see the wild social media posts that you're referencing, and that's been the issue here. We've
Yeah.
had some wild social media posts from these random pages putting out all sorts of stuff. I talked about the exploding trees thing. I was actually referencing a crazy social media post where one of the YouTubers put a circle around Lake Minnesota and said exploding trees this weekend. No, the trees can crack a bit because of cold. They don't explode. All right. So there's a lot of hype and disinformation and misinformation. And we try to cut through that. We've got the standards of journalism that we have to adhere to here at Wave. So we don't engage in that mess. Whenever we talk about something,
Right.
it's real and it has science to back us up, because that's what we do. We literally have in our weather department, every single person has a degree in meteorology.
Yes.
So just putting that out there.
It's not about the conjecture, folks. It's about just like trying to be as thorough. It's thoroughness, accuracy, clarity, the references you can trust at that point. Because we too look for the kind of sources on the news side and on the weather side. It's just like we know where to look. That is, on the whole, trustworthy stuff.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are sore about maybe not getting as much snow as we could have over the weekend, saying, oh, they hyped it up. What we didn't do was share these crazy model posts that had 24 inches of snow over us, like I saw a ton of outlets doing, not necessarily journalistic outlets, but just a bunch of pages and places like that. We didn't do that. We always gave you our thoughts, our forecast, more of a metered approach. We never had anything super crazy over Louisville. Of course, sleet and warm air went about 25 miles north is more than expected, and that happens. It was just like what happened in December 2004. I was 13 at the time, and man, I really wanted that foot of snow, but the sleet said, oh, no, no, no. So that's the deal with what we just had here. Again, I know folks are sore over that. We've gotten your voicemails and your phone calls and your emails. We know that. But listen, it wasn't just us, right? It was all of meteorology here in Louisville had a real tough time with this storm, but we did our best, and I can sleep at night because of that.
One more question in this block, Ryan, and DJ King Waltemeyer asking, do you think we'll have another big winter storm in the near future? But again, that's all dependent on what you see coming on the long range and the long term.
So I got two things. One, and we'll talk about this after the break, because I've got another slate of graphics after we do some more stuff here. One is around mid next week. There's a system that may have some southern Gulf moisture involved with it. Right now, it kind of looks weak, and it looks like it would be kind of a rain, maybe snow situation there. Not super impressed by it. But if something were to go wrong, that storm would be one to watch. And then February, when we kind of reset the atmosphere and we do this upper air pattern all over again, we'd have to watch for a pattern to watch, if you will, for another potential winter storm like the one we just had. Again, we don't have anything concrete on that. It's all just stuff that we're looking at well in advance, very blurry, very unspecific. That's how forecasting works past a week, 10 days, et cetera.
All right, so let's think short term, Ryan. And I know, we got to drive home, and it's just a matter of, we've seen every ounce of work from the small projects to the big city, state level kind of projects to keep the roads clear. Cars, that's what likely, you're trying to use as safely as possible on a night like tonight. A lot of folks, we've been driving around town too. You thought, I don't need to drive. But if you didn't try to create a good space for you to get in and out, you're probably stuck trying to dig and snowed in. Maybe for those of you that were digging out today, what did that look like? And in fact, mechanics saying, now you got to do your proactive homework to make sure the car's in good condition as in the moment that you can, just to see how it held up. So with a couple stories I want to share with you, this is the first of our Wave News team kind of going out about town and just taking a look at how things shook out. This is Wave News reporter Fernando Garcia, Francis Sheeny, talking to experts and wanted to see just how much of a struggle it was for certain folks to get their cars out. So let's bring that up.
We are on South 6th Street in Old Louisville. As you can see, this road is pretty clean, which means that plows have consistently been coming here cleaning this road. But what's left behind is that a mountain of snow now piled onto the cars that were left parked on the street. Among those digging out their cars from the towers of snow Tuesday morning was W.S. Tequeme.
I know I got to get in the car tomorrow morning, so I'm just kind of getting ready for that. I really don't plan on leaving today.
As he kept shoveling on, he told us his focus, though, was on having to later fight for a parking spot.
My concern is, after doing all this and creating a space here, I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna come back and somebody's gonna be in park right here.
And while losing your now clean parking spot can be a genuine worry,
Oil. Always make sure that the oil is up to date.
the owner of Automotion Inc. says your #1 priority should be checking your car after days of having it parked and surrounded by snow.
The wiring, the engine is cold. You got oil in there that's thick. When you first start, it's going to crank slower.
Mark Hilrich says many people don't think about checking the condition of their windshield wipers and if they have enough fluid. He says it's crucial after a winter storm.
If you get on the expressway and you got a car that's throwing debris up on the windshield, and you've got a bright sunny day like it is today, that gets on your windshield and you're going into the sunshine, you can't see.
Once you're done with the windshield, take a look at your tires.
Make sure that they got plenty of tread, that the pressure's up where it's supposed to be.
Hilrich says any batteries older than 3 years should be inspected. And as a general rule of thumb, if any service lights turn on, it's best to get your car to a repair shop as quickly as possible. Fernando Garcia Franceschini, Wave News.
All right, appreciate Fernando, and I can very much empathize with our driver. You know, you spend all that sweat equity trying to dig out, Ryan, but you can't control. It's just like, I need to go to the store, I need to go to work, and when someone sees that open spot, it's like, oh well, okay, someone else did the hard part for me, and I'm going to take advantage of that. But it's just sort of like it's on the public street, and you can't dictate or determine when folks are just going out and around town. It's hard to do. You would appreciate if someone in that situation helps you, push out over a snow ridge or, dig out of a pretty sticky situation. So it's just a matter of, if you see someone in need, you could probably do a really good thing for them in that spot.
Being helpful and being proactive are one and the same in a snowstorm here. Being proactive to make sure that you're in good shape, and then being helpful to others because you're now in good shape is also a good policy.
Something else, Ryan sets it up and tees it up perfectly about keeping not just yourself in good shape, it's about your castle, your home, as it were, because we're again talking about such abnormally cold temperatures, and we've been reminding you folks about that protection for your pipes, the water dripping at home. If these pretty key pieces of infrastructure are exposed to the cold, that creates a problem. So before you then have to talk to a plumber and assess if it's an emergency situation, here's another update from our Wave News reporter Mark Stevens about ways that you can keep doing the proactive steps to prevent any damage at home.
Having a pipe burst is no good any time of the year, but especially in this weather. And if you're wondering just how much water will come out, this is just part of an icicle that came out of a broken hose spigot.
Here we had to chip it away with a hammer before we could even get started.
Vessels Plumbing's Joe Mann stopped here first to fix a busted hose spigot after the owners noticed it spraying water at 6 a.m.
These homeowners actually got extremely lucky. You can see here actually is a very small piece of the rubber within the original hose spigot that had failed.
Mann says if your pipes freeze, all is not lost.
Not always, especially with PEX. Like I said, it's able to expand more than a rigid pipe like copper.
He says if you have pipes in exterior walls covered by cabinets, open the cabinet doors, put space heaters nearby, run the faucet half hot, half cold at a drip. If the water stops running,
start at the fixture, grab you a blow dryer or something of that nature, and just work your way back with any exposed lines that you can see.
Mann suggests wrapping the pipes with insulation to help keep them warm. Close shut-off valves to lines heading outside. And if they do freeze, check for egg-shaped pipes or discolored copper lines for evidence of a frozen line. And the water will stop.
And you have no water. If you notice that you've got a large burst of pressure when you go to turn the faucet on, you may want to turn that trickle up a bit more from that drip.
These homeowners got lucky. The spigot failed outside. Mann replaced it and packed up, heading to at least 5 more jobs just Tuesday.
And one of the most critical pieces of information to have for the plumber is knowing where your water shutoff valve is, especially if you've got a burst pipe. If you don't know that, a backup is the water meter, especially if you can find it in the snow, That's another place where the plumber can get access to turn off that water. In Louisville, Mark Stevens, Wave News.
And there, I'm so glad Mark reminded me of where my water meter is at home, Ryan. And it's sort of like it could be at the side of the house or you saw there on the ground. It's the small key machines and operative, equipment that in theory makes all modern life possible for us.
And it really is tough to find that in the snow, especially after that compaction that we talked about, trying to dig all the sleet and snow out of the way and just find it, right? Because you have an approximate idea, but like start digging around, it's going to take you 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
No. So hope you folks, like you keep letting us know on the comments section, stay home, stay warm. It's the thing we all wish we could be doing. It's when we do it off the clock, when we get to go back home and just decompress and watch TV. We get you.
A cup of hot tea sounds really good right now when
Yes,
it's
it
like
does.
20 degrees outside.
All right. Why don't we take a break, Ryan?
Let's take a break, shall we? And we'll be right back with not only more of your day's top stories, but we're also going to have some more weather, too. We're going to look at the long-range snow chances. We're going to be looking for snow. We'll talk more about that coming up here in just a few minutes on Wave Now and Wave Weather Now. We'll see you then. All righty, folks. Break time is over. Time for more weather fun here on Wave Weather Now and Wave Now. If you're just joining us, I'm meteorologist Ryan Hoke. This is José Zozaya. We're kind of combining forces this evening, double the trouble, if you will, just because, the weather side of this is not super crazy serious. It's not great. I'll tell you that. We've got alert days in the forecast here, but there's a news element to this as well because the cold impacts folks. The most active weather is done, and now we're looking at the impact of the cold and what the snow has left behind here. And speaking of snow, that takes us to today's Hokie weather fact, talking about snowy roofs. I've got snow on my roof, and so do you, and every one of you likely that we're talking to within our viewing area here this evening. I noticed something peculiar yesterday.
What was that, Ryan?
And that was that I've got two thermometers in my house. One in my hallway, it's the thermostat. And then that thermostat has a little satellite sensor upstairs in my bedroom. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that before it started snowing, that the downstairs was about the same temperature as the upstairs, maybe a degree warmer downstairs. Once the snow finished, it was 2 degrees warmer consistently in my bedroom upstairs. Why is that? It's likely because of this. Snow on your roof provides a little bit of insulation, blocking some of the heat from escaping your home. So if you've got a second floor or an attic, you may have noticed it's slightly warmer right now than it was before when it snowed, just because that heat in your home is rising to the attic or second floor and is not as readily able to punch through your roof and exit your home. So that snow, because it's got a lot of air pockets in it, provides almost like a kind of layer of insulation, much like you'd have like rock wool in your attic or fiberglass insulation. It's like adding to that. We say that with a big caveat.
I do. And yeah, I was going to say, it's like, this is the corning where you're going to find at the Home Depot and hope that it does the trick and it's going to be a long-term fix, right?
No, this isn't the Pink Panther stuff that you put in your attic. This can be too much of a good thing, unfortunately. If you've got super heavy snow on your roof, we're talking like 16 inches. I'm looking at you like Seymour, North Vernon. That can be a bit hazardous to the structure of your roof. It can be too heavy. Thankfully, that was a light, powdery snow up there. Even though it was a lot, there wasn't a lot of water content in it. So it's actually lighter than it would be typically. So that's good news. So you don't have to go outside right now and brush off your roof or anything. I promise you that. But a heavier, thicker snow that's like a foot, 2 feet, that can be a problem for the structure of your roof. You can have ice dams that develop where your gutters aren't draining. That's no fun either. So there's some good and there's some bad, much like everything in the weather, right? Speaking of snow on the ground, we have been 3 days in a row here with snow on the ground here in Louisville. And believe it or not, we are looking at the records. Yes, we are. We're looking to see how many days in a row we've had here in Louisville with snow on the ground record-wise. And you have to go back to 1978. Oh, yes, you folks out there, you may remember the winter of 77, 78. I didn't live through it, but boy, people tell me at drive-through windows about it. I mean, that's just how epic that winter was. My stepmom she grew up out in Russell County, Kentucky, and they were out of school for like a month down there. It was nuts, right? They had the big blizzard, the cold was insane. Well, they had snow here in Louisville. We had snow here in Louisville back in that winter for about 48 days straight. We've had 3 in a row so far. Could we go for 48? Don't think so. But if we get to 2 weeks, then we're in the top 10. Now, that I think is attainable. It's possible we could have a consistent snow cover on the ground here in Louisville for 2 straight weeks. We'll see how it goes. So this is what you've been waiting for. We're looking for snow. Okay, this evening we had a few flurries up in central Indiana. Some of those may scrape by North Vernon, no biggie. Tomorrow morning, freezing fog may actually create some flurries. I know that seems weird, but the fog will be so cold that we will have that temperature right in that sweet spot of 10 degrees below 0 Celsius and 20 degrees below 0 Celsius, not Fahrenheit here, very specific, where you can create snow crystals in the atmosphere. That may actually happen within the fog, because fog is clouds, right, that just touch the ground, that you could squeeze some phantom flurries out of that fog tomorrow morning. Interesting, right? And then we've got light snow potential Friday and Saturday. I've highlighted that in red as well for an alert day. We've got the Friday morning potential for not only the snow there being a problem with maybe a coating of snow in central and southern Kentucky. We've talked about that. But then Saturday would be for not only snow showers, but for extreme cold Saturday morning as more Arctic air plunges in. Finally, the 2nd through the 5th, which, by the way, is Monday through Thursday of next week, 2 more light snow chances. So let's talk about those, all right? That's the one I think most folks are curious about. So this Monday system is a clipper system from Canada, moves in fast from the Canadian provinces here. And this model right here, I believe this is still the European model. I mean, it shows a pretty decent beefy clipper trying to move in, and that could spread some light accumulating snow. It wouldn't be like what we just had here, but inch or 2 of snow, not out of the realm of possibility, not out of the question. We'll see how that goes. We get a break on Tuesday, and then this is the system I was talking about earlier. Somebody was asking about big snow. This Wednesday, Thursday system has more moisture involved, has kind of a southern component to it. That's why you see some rain starting to mix in. It tries to warm us up. Some models are trying to warm all of this up to rain. The American GFS model is doing that. This is the Euro. The Euro typically handles setups like the one we're in a little bit better. It doesn't overestimate the cold or try to ramp the cold out of here as badly as the GFS does. It has a bias to want to move weather systems through too quickly, to erase cold air too quickly. The Euro respects that more. So that's why we're showing that here. This could be another snow event Wednesday, Thursday of next week. And if it does spin up a little bit more with a stronger area of low pressure, more Gulf moisture, that could be something a little bit more significant. We'll see. By the way, the 8 to 14-day temperature outlook, guess what? Has us below normal. So this would likely be a problem for us, the cold at least, all the way through almost mid-February, the way we can see out in advance now from this Climate Prediction Center here. Our own 10-day earliest alert, we're popping that up on the screen here. You'll see that, of course, it's got temperatures below freezing all the way till next Friday. It is conceivable that Tuesday of next week we could get close to freezing. We'll see how that goes. But this is the reality of this winter that we're in right here. This is no fun for anyone, even the snow lovers here. This is a long haul, unfortunately, and we're going to be with this for quite some time. You see the Monday snow chance, you see the Wednesday, Thursday snow chance. Right now, we have that as being all snow and below freezing. We'll see how that works out, Jose, but get ready. This is going to be a long stretch. Make sure you've got adequate jackets, gloves, for the kiddos. Once they get back to school here, they're going to need them, because you'll see those overnight lows are even still in the teens a week from today. And I would imagine, hopefully, by the grace of whomever here, that we're back in school next week. It's tough, though. The cold and then side streets, trying to get the buses through. I get it. That's not an easy situation to be in.
The kids and parents, maybe to differing degrees, Ryan, would be hoping and praying that they're going to be back in school and things, can start to get to some semblance of normal. How appropriate, too, by the way, this feeling of the deja vu on Monday, on Groundhog Day. You fans who love that movie, you will let us know if it then feels like, didn't we just go through this like not that long ago?
That's good Sunday night viewing right there. If you're looking for an idea this weekend, Groundhog Day.
Get you through the mental part there. All right, real quick. Well, Rebecca Brown, Ryan, letting us know she remembers the blizzards back then. Again, Rebecca, we did not live through this. Sorry.
No.
The blizzards in 76, 77, and she remembered 78 being the worst.
Yeah, 78 was the worst. And that was just because back in 78, that's when you had like the most prolonged snow and cold there. So December of 77, had some interesting things going on, but January 78 was like ground zero for those who lived through it here. The 70s were wild. We had tornado in 74, tornado outbreak, and then winter of 77, 78, very memorable, both of those.
There's a theme to different perspectives, Ryan. We've been watching, again, thanks guys for, keeping the conversation, the commentary going here on the live stream we've got. But you can imagine, it's a theme of the same frustration where, yes, we talk about, the big major roads and arteries, those are getting plowed. Metro, in our case of Jefferson County, adding more to the snow route map up in southern Indiana, whatever those plans are at a municipal level. But perhaps just this frustration that when it comes to those streets that get us close to home, right down our block, if you don't have the equipment, it's just like there's never an easy then way or a pre-planned way to clear all the snow that's been packing. And, we could speak to that too, where it's just like, depending on your, if you're on your cul-de-sac in your specific community, if it's not an HOA, then who knows who's going to take care of trying to get that particular hazard or that obstacle out of your way.
And the big problem here was the temperature, right? I mean, we've been so cold. It was snowing when it was like 14, 13 degrees. NaCl, salt, traditional sodium chloride, is not effective below 20-something degrees. So we are way below that. These neighborhoods and these small municipalities either don't have or cannot afford the more high-octane salt products that go way down to zero and beyond that they have, commonly like in Minnesota and Illinois. So it's been a real problem because, this is not going to go anywhere because it's so cold. We may start to see at least the roads improve here over the coming days, but boy, those neighborhood side streets, that's going to take a while.
And us learning too, even about, the consistencies of some of these compounds, Ryan, where it's magnesium chloride and sort of the introduction of molasses as an adhesive almost.
I hated chemistry in college, by the way, so all of this is foreign to me.
That was probably, biology was not the tough science, I will admit. Ryan and I are in the same boat. Chemistry was tough.
I know enough to know about melting points and the physics kind of part of that. So absolutely.
Do you remember perhaps, there's another commenter here. I don't know how to say it. Let's get really, but talking about 2015, that snow, which you would remember that as well.
Yeah. So I was here for 2015. I was at Wave, and let's go back down memory lane. Myself and Christy Dutton were working sunrise that morning. I can't remember the exact date, but it was 2015. And I took a phone call from a gentleman in the weather office, and he was down in Radcliffe. And this guy got on the phone, older gentleman. He said, "Ryan," I said, "Hi, what's your name?" He's like, "Bob." And he's like, "Well, down here in Radcliffe, we have 23 inches of snow." And I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Almost 2 feet of snow.
Yeah, almost 2 feet of snow that morning. And I was like, okay, I got to get a picture of this. He's like, well, I got my phone, so I can take a picture and I can text it to you. So he texted it to my number. And by golly, there was 23 inches of snow. And that turned out to be the canary in a coal mine for that morning, because when the sun rose, because this was like at 4 or 5 a.m. when he called, when the sun rose, we found that there was an entire neighborhood in northern Hardin County that was snowed in, literally to a point where they couldn't get folks in or out. So county officials, the state had to go in and clear away just incredible amounts of snow that I have never seen in my life. And I got to see it on video, of course, to get these folks out. So 2015, if that had hit Louisville, imagine if that had gone just, 15, 20 miles north, that would have been a humanitarian disaster unlike any other that we've seen in quite some time here in the city. That would have been 94 on steroids. In 2015, we missed that by this much. So just know that, we teeter on disaster with these storms sometimes. We all remember 94, 04. We remember 93. We remember what happened this past January. It can always be much worse.
Inches on a map, miles for us, and it's literally that fine line. It's a needle's circumference as far as how things could change. James Disler, perhaps, I don't know if he's thinking this is what's going to be the case. That all of February,
he's a model watcher. I know James.
Yes,
yeah,
looks loaded with
James.
cold and snow.
Yes.
In February, it would make sense for this cold not to, go completely away. It's just to what degree we're going to be dealing with this kind of cold.
He's referencing the same data I was referencing earlier. We don't show that data verbatim here because it can change, but there's enough ammunition behind it right now that it is of some concern.
The redeemed one, 8998, had to read that phonetically to make sure I got that handle. But curious, of course, school JCPS on Friday. To the knowledge we have, okay, so NTI established for tomorrow, NTI established for Thursday.
Yep.
I think they're holding off on the exact decision they're going to make. So who knows if maybe the forecast will give them a better, more informed decision by tomorrow, or even by Thursday morning, they could make the call, right? But we just don't know exactly what that's going to be. That it's their call, but taking this information.
And if those morning snow showers on Friday do come north, if they do trend north, which is possible, and they would hit Louisville, that could also be a factor in their decision. So watch this space, watch the Wave Weather app. It's important that you do so.
All right. How are we doing as far as, the time does fly by?
It does. It's already 8:47.
One more question, Ryan, or
one more.
Well, sometimes you guys carry on your own conversations, and it's hard to see.
Everybody's atting each other, at this guy, at that.
Okay. Well, Wizard was coming back to that conversation about with this conversation that people get anxious about with what was happening with the trees.
Yeah.
But you were talking about, can the cold then create, the water, whatever moisture is in a tree, the ice freezes, it turns into ice, and it could expand the bark and the fibers.
Yep.
So that's perhaps just something that if there's enough moisture, who knows what it could create for that damage. And we see, trees in this cold and the snow, the weight of the snow also will bring those and tumble down too.
Yeah, and they've had problems with, trees cracking and limbs coming down because of this kind of situation to our north. Haven't heard about it here, more of the frost quakes thing around here. But yeah, tree cracking is a problem, and it's super extreme cold. Trees are hardy, though, I will say. They know how to make it through this. They've been around a lot longer than you and me. So I wouldn't worry too much. It's more ice storms that I'm worried about trees, because nobody can withstand an ice storm. We saw what happened in Mississippi and Tennessee, absolute destruction and disaster. It looked like in parts of North Mississippi. I went to school at Mississippi State, by the way, just full disclosure here. I've seen pictures in North Mississippi that look like a tornado went through. And it's just because you have whole trees, pine trees in the Pine Belt, going through houses, cutting them in half, killing people. I mean, there's deaths because of people in their homes and trees are coming down. Yeah. Ice storms, awful. We're so lucky that the ice part of our event here was pretty mild, not that big of a deal.
Well, Ryan, as we're going to wind down going into the next part of the break, and this is where I'll take over just to walk you through some of the other stories of the day. But, you can always reach Ryan here, or remind folks, though, too, you're very much active on social and everything you're doing with the storm tracking team. They obviously know how to find you here on the Wave Weather Now platform, but just remind them where they can always connect with you. It's always good for those of you who don't, who haven't been following Ryan. but I think you have been all this time, where you can connect and follow all his sage advice and good information.
Yeah, Ryan Hoke -wave on Facebook is my Facebook page there. I post a lot of fun weather factoids, like Hokie weather facts, like you saw here this evening. A lot of other stuff that's kind of adjacent to weather. You can always find me on Instagram, HokieWX. And of course, I'm on Blue Sky now. I'm on Threads. There's so many different things. I'm on TikTok. Heck, I think I'm HokieWX on TikTok as well. I just posted one about frostquakes, funny enough, if you haven't seen that. And of course, you can reach our whole weather team. That's Wave Weather on Facebook.
Yes.
So we're always around. We've got someone in that weather office, I think like 22 out of 24 hours a day. So there's someone here to take your question usually.
Yeah, it could be the dark of night or just very early morning for you early birds. Janetta Flood, we'll leave with that thought. She's never going to be so happy to see 30, 32, and 35. I think
Get out the swim shorts.
We'll be rooting that on for you and with you. All right, we're going to take that break. Like I said, want to thank Ryan for letting me join in the Wave Weather Now, and we'll just continue the conversation after coming back from break with more of the story. So what do you say, Ryan? We'll hit the start here.
Let's do it.
All right. We'll see you in a bit, folks.
All right.
All right, folks, thanks for sticking with us in the special edition of Wave Weather Now, merging with Wave News Extra. Appreciate our storm tracking team meteorologist Ryan Hoke walking us through not just what's coming up on the next couple of days, looking ahead for that 10-day forecast, understanding, Groundhog Day, that feeling of deja vu, discussing the cold and our snow chances as well. Appreciate you folks sticking around as well on our live stream through Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, also on the Wave Now and the Wave Weather Now platforms. Always great to check in with you guys there. Why don't we show you just a little example of how much fun it was outside. I'd love to show you all this particular footage. Let's see if we can get that playing. And if not, we might just scrub through that. This is where the fun of the video sometimes maybe doesn't do us a world of justice. But nonetheless, why don't we get to some more stories to share with you? We were discussing what was coming up and the consideration for JCPS impacts with, this very dangerous cold. So just as a reminder, JCPS had moved to the NTI, non-traditional instructions, not just for tomorrow, but for Thursday. School leaders, they made the decision because they were concerned. We've been talking these freezing temperatures and the side streets, they're untreated. Sidewalks also very hard to use if they haven't been cleared already, or just someone who did the clearing for you where you live or where the schools might be. And after school activities, those are any athletics, any extracurriculars, those are going to be canceled again for tomorrow and Thursday. NTI days, though, are recognized as, they're standard days to be included in a school calendar preparation. They are not going to extend a school year proper. Take you now to the story with this big update on the crash, the deadly crash back in November with UPS flight 2976. UPS announcing as a company they're going to retire the fleet of MD-11 aircraft, which is what this plane was when it crashed and killed all the people it did. It lost this engine that it had, crashed on takeoff at Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport, killing the 15 victims we know of, igniting that massive fire and the damage you saw. So we learned this through the earnings call that happened today from UPS. CEO Carol Tomé announcing the company is going to accelerate the plans and retire the 26 MD-11s it has under its possession. Since the deadly crash, all the MD-11s have been grounded, some of them parked at Ali International. Tomé said they're going to be replaced with Boeing 767s. She started her remarks remembering the people, all the 15 who were killed in the crash, including the crew on board the plane. And she also had words of praise for UPS-based Louisville employees and others.
I am incredibly proud of our team at Worldport and how they responded to this accident. And I would like to thank the Louisville community, as well as our business and industry partners for their outpouring of support.
Now, Tomé says over the next year or so, they're going to replace most of the MD-11 aircraft. They decided they were going to accelerate their plans to retire the fleet after they got through their peak holiday delivery season. Then they determined as a company they were going to be able to get along just fine without these MD-11s. Now, the crews are going to continue to get paid. The crews who fly these particular models, they're going to be paid during the transition, and the new aircraft are going to be arriving later this year. So with that update, there's another status check for UPS, since another big story that we sent push alerts to you on your smartphones, so the Wave News app, that UPS also made the decision they're going to cut up to 30,000 more jobs as they're reducing the number of Amazon shipments they handle. The cuts also include closing another 24 facilities this calendar year of 2026. Last year, UPS got rid of around 48,000 jobs, launched driver buyouts, and closed operations at 93 buildings. It's not clear how the work in Louisville is going to be impacted just yet. Now, the workforce reduction, UPS says it's part of its plan to slash millions of what it called low profit deliveries for Amazon.com. But Amazon is its largest customer and a growing delivery rival at the same time. The company expects they're going to see a dip in their revenue the first half of the year as they complete what they're calling an Amazon glide down. And then that might rise in the second half once these reductions are fully complete. And an update from Metro government. This is a story that we learned about this update too. You probably saw this in our earlier newscast that Metro government's agreed to a $20 million settlement in a lawsuit. This is after this was filed, and it accused LMDC of unlawfully holding inmates beyond their court-ordered release dates. All the parties involved agreed to go into mediation back in November. Jacob Healy and Larry Hibbs say they were being held at LMDC after workers denied them a work release that the courts approved. Both men's lawsuit claimed they were falsely imprisoned, unlawfully detained, there was failure to train and supervise the staff properly, or that policies were maintained that then caused the violations. The men had asked for lost wages and punitive damages before then agreeing to whatever this settlement was. Let's talk TARC ridership for you bus riders. And we know this has been impacted by the severe, serious winter weather, the snow and the cold. But this is going to be a conversation that you're likely very much aware of. Just a quick update that some TARC services are still suspended because of the winter storm. Soon, though, there is the possibility this is going to cost a little more to get around on city buses. They're still hosting meetings to go over the proposed fare increases right now. A single ride still costs $1.75. But if the new proposal is agreed upon, that's going to jump to $2.25. And that would increase the prices in a bunch of different kinds of trip categories. You're talking daily rides, weekly rides, monthly passes, and so on. So if this is approved, the changes would actually start fairly quickly. We're coming up on February. These new price increases would start in March. TARC says they're looking for ways to bring in more money to keep the agency afloat. You can still share your thoughts. There's the opportunity to come to 2 in-person meetings tomorrow and Thursday if you're able to. Again, understanding how much more difficult things are to navigate in the snow and the packed snow. But you can find details about also how to leave your commentary online. That's part of our story and our reporting on wave.com. Staying with another update from, and this is where checking through the video we've got here. Another update from Metro government is that Mayor Greenberg says Metro Codes and Regulations Director Richard Price is going to retire from his department at the end of the month, and that Donald Robinson Jr. is going to take over. But this comes less than a week after our Wave News troubleshooters questioned both the director and the mayor about repeated claims that Price's leadership had created a toxic work environment. This is where Alina Noakes, her in-depth reporting on this, that the troubleshooters had received numerous complaints from employees saying that Price had created a workplace where they were fearful of their jobs every day, that their allegations or the complaints continued for months. Copies the troubleshooters received detailed employees' ethics complaints, quote, upwards of 40 that accused Price of leading the department with threats and retaliation. Again, part of those accusations talking about, claims of nepotism, favoritism, repeated violations of a union collective bargaining agreement. Based on the records Alina and the troubleshooters received copies of, Metro leaders have been aware of the complaints for several months, substantiating some of them all the way back to July last year. But employees also telling the troubleshooters the workplace has only gotten worse, forcing the union to then file an official notice of a hostile work environment earlier this month. When the troubleshooters tried to ask Price to respond to these claims at a press conference last week, Price told Wave News that they were not true. He does not acknowledge the claims in his email to employees announcing his decision, and neither does the mayor's office, who then thanked Price for his commitment to the community and his many years of public service. I hope you stick around for us tonight on Wave News at 11, where Arlena Noakes is going to discuss what Price's own employees have to say. And that's on top of you're going to have that troubleshooters update coming up and more of our snow impact reporting from our Julia Richardson. We're going to have that ready for you coming up now. As a matter of fact, looking at the clock in less than 2 hours. So hope you join us around Wave News at 11. The last thing we're going to leave with you folks tonight is just something little bit of a ribbon to tie in this merged Wave Weather Now, Wave News Now fused live stream for you folks. Just part of our company's consumer series of Watching Your Wallet, and it's a new study discussing how 30% of Americans are trying to pay off more than one debt this year. So I can imagine as you're trying to keep whatever money is in your accounts as judiciously and prudently as possible, but discussing whatever these winter damage repairs and your energy bill and your water bill, and then you're getting the kids to school, but also juggling whether you can get to work or not. Something very salient, I know. So in this story to share with you, the last thing tonight, Rachel DePompa is looking at ways that you could try to get started on tackling all of those debts.
It's one of the most popular New Year's resolutions out there, pay off debt. Sarah Rathner, a personal finance expert with NerdWallet, says it's a great goal and one you can easily start to tackle right away. A third of Americans felt optimistic about their finances going into the new year, according to the 2026 Consumer Outlook. Rathner says that also means just as many Americans are feeling stressed right now, which is why she says one of the best things you can do if you have high interest credit card debt is to chip away at it as aggressively as your budget allows. That frees up more money.
Pull up the most recent credit card statement you have or other statements for other debts and write down how much you still owe and what interest rate you're being charged. Because a lot of people don't actually know this amount. You're making these payments every month, sometimes even just the minimum payment, and you're on autopilot. So take yourself off autopilot and see where you are today.
Then she says, figure out what debt repayment plan makes the most sense for you.
Maybe you want to save as much on interest as you possibly can. So you use what's called debt avalanche, where you prioritize the debt with the highest interest rate first, and then you make minimum payments on all the other debts. And once you knock out that high interest rate debt first, then you move on to other debts on your list.
If you're struggling with motivation, she says, try a debt snowball where you pay off the smallest debt first so you feel like you're making progress. Once you feel that victory, you move on to the next largest debt on your list. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa.
A reminder, folks, that we're going to be hard at work for the next couple hours, and the Wave Sunrise team then takes over. As you can see, the top story is the storm tracking team discussing these alert days ahead. It's this dangerous cold, and then what's coming on our radar to look at over the course of the weekend to start next week and Groundhog Day. So a reminder that all this information to help you stay informed and prepared at your fingertips on wave3.com. You can check in with all our original reporting, the Wave Weather Now app, the Wave Storm Tracking team, all there at your disposal. We're here to help you out and try to brace through this as much as possible, and the reporting on the stories that impact us here in our community. And let's see what we can set up for you. And what I'm going to do as this is happening is just leave you all with a shot, hopefully, of some quiet skies. Let's see if we can bring some of that up. Okay. What we're going to do is leave you with this parting shot of the Louisville skyline from our Jeffersonville SkyTrack camera. Appreciate you folks joining us on the live stream and on Wave Weather Now and Wave Now. We're still in the thick of this winter cold, so hopefully everyone stays warm and safe as we try to get back to some semblance of normal. On behalf of storm tracking team meteorologist Ryan Hoke, I'm Wave News anchor José Zozaya. Appreciate you all spending this hour with us. Take care, folks. We'll see you later tonight.